That's funny. You need to go read Psalm 22. And as far as, the Trinity and Jesus being one with the Father and us being one with Him, you got to understand that Mary conceived a supernatural birth. She didn't have sex with anybody, so she conceived a birth out of virginity, which means that her child did not inherit the sins of Adam because, you know, he was outer worldly. And it's interesting that you show the Shroud of Turin. Scientists today still cannot replicate what happened in the Shroud of Turin, and it's mind-boggling. They can't use even their most sophisticated lasers or ionizers or anything to explain that away. So I'm glad that you're really happy about your atheism and all that. That's cute. But you even said it yourself. One thing gives birth to another thing after its kind. And that's actually in the Bible, right in the beginning in Genesis. God says, be fruitful and multiply, and you cattle will reproduce after your kind, and you fruits and vegetables and plants will reproduce after your kind, and all the fish will reproduce after their kind, and all the birds after their kind. So that right there, because you can acknowledge that, is obvious that you get it. So when the evolutionists lie to you and explain to you that little mutations end up changing everything, it's a farce. It's a lie. Because even with genetic mutations, you don't get biogenetic deformations or abnormalities that lead to, say, feathers appearing on a dinosaur. If you look at feathers, they're extremely complicated. And birds have to secrete a liquid that keeps them oiled up so they don't fall apart on them while they're flapping them around all the time. They have air. We breathe air like dinosaurs breathe air. It would come in and it would go out, but birds breathe air and it goes in and around and comes out like that. And their heart is different than dinosaur hearts. And there's not a single transitional fossil found ever. They have never found one transitional fossil. All we find is varieties of species, and that's just through adaptation and also through, when you have a bunch of kids and they all split off, the genes get separated and they maintain their different kinds of, like Asian people got their slanty eyes. It's all, if you think about it, no matter what you believe, everything is inbred. And it's all because of inbreeding that everybody looks different, because everybody went out into their clans way back when the Tower of Babel happened and everybody got their languages divided, which is another thing people have no explanation for, why mankind has so many different intricate languages, which is a whole nother topic. But it's just, evolution is absolutely such garbage. They do helium diffusion dating on zircon crystals, and they do it from the Cambrian era right on up through all the different rock layers, and it always produces the same exact results, that the Earth is about 6,000 years old. They know that the argon dating has a 500 to 600% inaccuracy rate, so they can just pick and choose any date they want to. And I would suggest going to JewsForJesus.com or .org and looking in there about how the Old Testament talks about Jesus coming. And then you talk about how the angels are going to come and they're going to throw everything out. You need to go read the last book of the Bible because that's yet to come. See, Jesus had to come to die on the cross because if you look at what Abraham did, God told Abraham to go up on the mountain and bring his child and sacrifice his own child to God. And now Abraham was like, wow, that's crazy. And he knew it was God talking to him because he knew God. Much like Adam and Eve would have known the Lord, he had a very close relationship with him. And then there's also passages in the Bible I mean, the Earth is young. Young Earth creationists think the Earth is only 6,000 years old, and there's plenty of evidence to prove that. The Precambrian age, and then where there's absolutely nothing, and then the Cambrian explosion. There's all this life. There's articulated legs and compound eyes and every sort of intricate thing that you would need to have, and that you still have, and many of those creatures are still alive today, completely unchanged, supposedly 600 million years old or whatever, just absolute garbage. But in any case, we know the Earth is young. We know it's young because these argon dates are so off the wall. 5 to 600% inaccuracy. If something is 100% wrong, it's completely wrong. But when it's 500% wrong, give me a break. You know, they found a dinosaur, or what was it? A mammoth fossil. They found a mammoth fossil, and they dated the rocks with argon dating to be 250 million years old. Then they found a human skull underneath the mammoth fossil, and the guy went, "Oh my goodness, did somebody plant this here to try and screw with us?" And then they had to go, "No, it's really there in the ground." So then they had to date it again, and then they came up with something like 3 billion years. They went from 250 million to 3 million. Sorry, not 3 billion, 3 million. 250 to 3. Yeah, argon dating. That's where it's all about right there. You're going to get just the right date. And in fact, there's carbon-14 in the diamonds and in the bones of these dinosaurs. If you look up the T-Rex with soft tissue and red blood cell videos on YouTube, the lady says this flies in the face of everything we thought we knew about how these things are fossilized, and she doesn't want to say how old they are because that's absurd. They know that the way things decay, they can't last even 10,000 years, these structures. Not even 10. And they're saying they're 40 million years old. It's a joke. You're a joke. You need to go read your Bible and stop being like, "Oh, yes, and Jesus wasn't God." Jesus was God in the womb of God. And that's actually what he's called in the Bible. Jesus is a very interesting character. Jesus came down to be the next Adam. See, Adam fell to sin. He disobeyed God. He was perfect. Jesus was perfect. Jesus knew God just like Adam, walked this earth, and was tempted in every single thing that there was and conquered it. All of it. And then he laid his own life down on the cross as a sacrifice. But like what I was saying with Abraham, I trailed off. God asked Abraham to sacrifice his own son. Abraham was willing to do it, and then God provided him a ram in the bush. So Abraham didn't have to kill his own son. God didn't want him to kill his own son. God just wanted to see if he would actually do it. And because Abraham was willing to do that for God, God was willing to sacrifice his son, his only begotten son that was begot of a human being that he actually... They say, well, if we're all the children of God when we're saved, how could he be the only begotten son? He was begotten of Mary. He was begotten of a woman. It was like the only time that it ever happened. And also, Jesus is an element of God. Jesus was a part of God that the Lord took of himself and put down into the earth to walk amongst us. Jesus was supernatural. And it's not just in the pages of the Bible that we know that. I mean, obviously the Shroud of Turin and its absolute miraculousness, nobody can explain that thing. Just so you know, nobody can explain it. There's guys been trying to forge it. They can't do it. But Jesus rose from the dead, kid. He didn't just rise from the dead like those Haitians that go into voodoo trances for 3 days. He got stabbed with a huge spear in his side. He got lashed all over his body and bled himself out. He was done, dude. He was done. And he rose from the dead. And guys like Josephus, who were not Judeo, into Judaism, he actually went over and started working with the Greeks. And or the Romans or whatever. He started working for them because he didn't want to get slaughtered, because they were pretty rough to people back then, especially at the time of Christianity. It was a really crazy time in the world. John the Baptist got thrown on Patmos Island for going around talking about all this stuff. But, kid, I know you'd love to see God die and all that, but we got a young Earth on our hands. We got no transitional fossils at all. We have no what's the terms? Chemosynthesis or abiogenesis. Never seen it happen. Never been reproduced in a laboratory. Even under, the most perfect conditions, they cannot get life to come out of non-living chemicals. Even if you take all the DNA in the world and blend it all up and stick it in a pot somewhere, it's not going to start assembling itself into some sort of living thing. And you said that yourself, each after its own kind. And God sent Jesus to the world. He was not just a normal kid, man. He was not a normal person walking around doing normal people things. He was going to the synagogues at 12 years old, teaching the rabbis who were studying the Bible their whole lives. He went in there at 12 years old and started teaching them. And they were like, where did this kid get his wisdom from? He was teaching them things that they didn't even know. Jesus didn't come to destroy the law. He came to accurately portray it. And the only laws that got nailed to the cross were the laws of ordinances, which separated the Jew from the Gentile. So now the Jews don't have to get circumcised. You don't need to be circumcised. God's kept the Jews separate from all the rest of the world for a long time because everybody was a pagan. But Jesus came to die as the final sacrifice, the final shedding of blood for the world. He laid his own life down to do that. When Pilate, or whoever the guy's name was that was standing there saying, I got the power to let you go free or not. And Jesus said to the guy, you have no power except for the power that my Father has given to you. And so, it's a joke. And your little argument is not based in reality at all. So, go look up the Jews for Jesus website and see all the passages in Scripture that talk about Jesus coming. And then go read Revelations and find out about him coming again.